Hello everyone, and welcome to the Unanswered Questions True Crime Podcast.
I have spent hours and hours investigating this.
He basically told her that people have been killed. Journalists, independent investigators, people like that disappeared. It frightened her to the bone.
There's more to the story than meets the eye.
There were rumors of torture and homicide and sexual abuse, all sorts of egregious, horrendous crimes.
He was polygraphed 3 times. Each of those 3 showed evasions.
His resumes were a skeleton of truth.
He was mad at the world, and particularly mad at the government.
The study that he commissioned described a fictional terrorist attack.
If people have died over this, it means you're getting close to the truth.
You don't have to be a conspiracy theorist to say, what the fuck?
Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of my new podcast, Unanswered Questions, where every week we will endeavour to discuss a mysterious unsolved case that has many lingering unanswered questions. So I hope you enjoy, and as always, leave me some feedback on what you think about this show, and rate it as well. Now on to the show. This week we'll be talking about all the Simpsons predictions that came true. The Simpsons animated TV series has entertained fans with 30 years worth of hilarious antics from Homer Simpson and his family, but the show has also been good at predicting the future. So today we're going to go through a list of every prediction The Simpsons has made over the years that came true. Three-eyed fish. Bart and Lisa famously found a three-eyed fish in Springfield's highly contaminated waters, unsurprising given Mr. Burns operates a power plant nearby with their dad Homer in a prominent role. The three-eyed fish was found in real life in 2011, terrifyingly when fishermen in Argentina found a three-eyed wolffish in a reservoir near a nuclear plant. Apps will translate baby cries. Danny DeVito, playing Homer's half-brother Herb, creates a translation tool for infant gibberish, much like the Infant Cries Translator app created in 2016. All-you-can-eat restaurants will be sued for false advertising. Homer gets kicked out of an all-you-can-eat restaurant and sues, as one Albert Fleming of Massachusetts did to an all-you-can-eat restaurant in 2017. Thriller films will be promoted with blood splattering. A billboard for an itchy and scratchy movie spurts a blood-like substance onto passing cars. Kill Bill Volume 1 was promoted using a similar effect in 2003. There will be a snake assassination holiday. A snake-killing holiday invented in a Simpsons episode became a real-world event in the form of Florida's annual Python Challenge. An average Joe will be sent into orbit. NASA sends a random person into space, as the United Kingdom did in 2013 when they sent non-astronaut Oliver Knight into space. September 11th, 2001 will happen. A coupon for a $9 New York bus features the Twin Towers in the background, making the ad appear to read New York $9.11, spawning many September 11 related conspiracies. The Albuquerque Isotopes will become a real team. In a plotline made reality, Homer protests his baseball team, the Springfield Isotopes, moving to Albuquerque. When a minor league team relocated to New Mexico not long after the episode aired, they voted to change their name to the Albuquerque Isotopes. Rodents will be sold as poodles. Criminal character Fat Tony glues cotton balls to ferrets and sells them as toy poodles. In 2013, an Argentinian man paid $150 for what he thought were toy poodles, but what turned out to be huge rodents on steroids. Crooks will steal and sell grease. Homer tries to get rich quick by stealing grease and selling it for profit, as thieves were caught doing in 2013. Autocorrect fails. Predicted in 1994 and came true in 2007. During a Springfield Elementary School assembly, Kearney asks fellow bully Dolph to make a memo to beat up Martin on his Newton, Apple's early attempt at a personal digital assistant. However, the machine translates the message into eat up Martha instead, foreshadowing the common messaging errors people blame on iPhone's autocorrect technology. In fact, Nitin Ganatra, sorry if I get that name wrong, Apple's former director of engineering for iOS applications, revealed in 2013 that the Simpsons gag served as a rallying cry while developing the software for the iPhone's keyboard. Quote, if you heard people talking and they used the words eat up Martha, it was basically a reference to the fact that we needed to nail the keyboard. We needed to make sure the text input works on this thing, otherwise here comes the eat up Marthas, end quote, he told Fast Company. FaceTime, predicted in 1995 and came true in 2010. In this futuristic installment, Lisa talks with Marge using her phone's video chat capabilities, predating the popular FaceTime feature of today's iPhones by 15 years. faulty voter machines, predicted in 2008 and came true in 2012. In a bit inspired by the 2008 presidential election, Homer tries to vote for Barack Obama only to have a voting machine record his selection as John McCain several times. Coincidentally, when it came time for Obama to run for a second term in 2012, video footage emerged of a Pennsylvania machine switching a vote from Obama to one for his Republican opponent Mitt Romney. The machine was reportedly taken out of commission. The God particle, predicted in 1998 and came true in 2012. The existence of the Higgs boson, or God particle, a breakthrough that helps explain how everything in the universe has mass, wasn't confirmed by physicists until 2012, but according to Dr. Simon Singh, the author of The Simpsons and Their Mathematical Secrets, after Homer decided to become an inventor in The Wizard of Evergreen Terrace, he was pictured standing in front of a blackboard with an equation that predicted the mass of the yet-to-be-discovered particle. Quote, "If you work it out, you get the mass of a Higgs boson that's only a bit larger than the nanomass of a Higgs boson actually is," end quote, he told The Independent. Quote, "It's kind of amazing as Homer makes this prediction 14 years before it was discovered," end quote. NSA spying scandal, predicted in 2007, came true in 2013. When the Simpson family is forced to go into hiding following their escape from the EPA biodome enclosing Springfield, the NSA locates Marge and the kids by listening in on one of their conversations. However, it wasn't until 6 years after the Simpsons movie hit theaters that Edward Snowden first blew the whistle on the government mass surveillance of Americans' phone and internet records. Smartwatches, predicted in 1995 and came true in 2014. When Lisa visits a fortune teller at a Renaissance fair, viewers are transported 15 years into the future to 2010, a time when wristwatch communication technology exists. However, even the Simpsons' future society was a little ahead of its time, as modern voice recognition-enabled smartwatches wasn't rolled out until 2014. America's Ebola outbreak, predicted in 1997 and came true in 2014. This installment saw Marge offer to read a depressed Bart a book titled Curious George and the Ebola Virus. This moment was widely circulated during the 2014 American Ebola outbreak when YouTube user TheControversy7 created a video laying out a theory revolving around the Simpsons' predictive tendencies. FIFA's corruption scandal, predicted in 2014 and came true in 2015. Although the World Football Federation representative who asks Homer for help repairing the organization's image isn't explicitly named as a member of FIFA, his arrest turned out to be uncannily similar to those of the real-life FIFA officials who were arrested on corruption charges about a year later, not to mention that the episode also correctly predicted Germany's defeat of Brazil in the 2014 World Cup. Greece's debt default, predicted in 2012 and came true in 2015. When Homer appears as a guest commentator on cable news show Headbutt, a ticker runs across the screen on the screen that reads, "Europe puts Greece on eBay." Of course, this was 3 years before Greece became the first developed country to default to the International Monetary Fund, plunging the country deeper into economic crisis. The Nobel Prize, predicted in 2010 and came true in 2016. Bengt Holmstrom may not have won the Nobel Prize in Economics until 2016, but one Simpsons character was betting on him 6 years prior. In a scene from the season 22 premiere in which Martin holds up a scoreboard depicting his Nobel Prize bidding pool with Lisa, Milhouse, and Database, the MIT professor is clearly marked on one of Milhouse's squares. President Donald Trump, predicted in 2000 and came true in 2016. When Bart flashes forward into adulthood, viewers learn that Lisa not only became president, but inherits quite a budget crunch from her predecessor Donald Trump. "The country is broke?" she asks her aides in one scene. "How can that be?" At the time, the real Trump presidency was still 16 years away. However, in a 2016 interview with The Hollywood Reporter, writer Dan Greeny explained the joke was meant as a warning to the country. Quote, "That just seemed like the logical last step before hitting the bottom," he said. "It was pitched because it was consistent with the vision of America going insane." End quote. Lady Gaga's halftime show, predicted in 2012 and came true in 2017. Nearly 5 years before Lady Gaga descended from the roof of Houston's NRG Stadium for the halftime show of the Super Bowl, her Simpsons doppelganger performed a song for the residents of Springfield while suspended in the air. The two mother monsters even wore similar silver ensembles for their shows. Disney's Fox takeover, predicted in 1998 and came true in 2017. After a trip to Springfield, director Ron Howard pitches a screenplay that Homer wrote to producer Brian Glazer of 20th Century Fox. At the beginning of the scene, a sign can be seen at the Fox studio lot that reveals the company is now a division of Walt Disney Co. Cut to nearly 20 years later, and this sale is officially underway, with the news breaking that Disney has reached a deal to acquire $66.1 billion worth of Fox on December 14th of 2017. Team USA's Olympic curling win, predicted in 2010 and came true in 2018. Team USA's men's curling team defeated Sweden in a shocking upset at the 2018 Olympics that brought yet another Simpsons storyline to real-life fruition. Mirroring events from a 2010 episode in which Marge and Homer made it onto the US mixed doubles curling team, the Americans came from behind in their February 5th matchup with Sweden to capture gold at the Winter Games in Pyeongchang. Drogon's fiery rampage on Game of Thrones, predicted in 2017 and came true in 2019. A 2017 episode called The Simpsons saw Homer, Marge and the rest of the Simpsons gang find themselves in the kingdom of Springfieldia, an alternate fantasy universe that parodied many aspects of life in Westeros on Game of Thrones. There was even a fire-breathing dragon that burnt down the Simpsons village, much like Drogon, acting as Durncy's behest, ended up doing the King's Landing in Game of Thrones' penultimate episode, The Bells. The 2020 experience, predicted in 1993 and came true in 2020. If 2020 was a bingo card, The Simpsons could already have at least 2 squares ticked off. In the nearly 30-year-old episode Marge and Chained, not only does an unprecedented flu sweep through Springfield, but when the townspeople begin rioting to demand a cure for the virus, a swarm of killer bees that could be likened to the murder hornets that I'll go to in a second, that recently hit the US, unexpectedly come into the picture. On the other hand, episode co-writer Bill Oakley told The Hollywood Reporter in March that any comparisons the storyline seems to invite to coronavirus are purely coincidental. Quote, "There are very few cases where The Simpsons predicted something," he said. "It's mainly just coincidence because the episodes are so old that history repeats itself. Most of these episodes are based on things that happened in the 60s, 70s, or 80s that we knew about." End quote. Murder hornets. In the same episode that The Simpsons predicted a pandemic, they also gave clues to another outbreak. During the episode Marge and Chains, a crowd of people demanded that they wanted a placebo to cure their illness. When one of the members of the crowd pointed at a truck that could hold the placebos, the crowd knocked the truck over, releasing a swarm of killer bees. Similar to around the same time as the COVID-19 outbreak, there were reports of the Asian giant hornet appearing in the US. A type of killer bee, the Asian giant hornet, was claimed to be a threat to the bee population and was reported that they could destroy an entire bee colony, as mentioned by the New York Times. Matrix 4 premiere. This Simpsons prediction was easy to miss in the 2004 episode The Ziff Who Came to Dinner in season 15 episode 14. At the beginning of the episode, behind Homer Simpson is a movie poster that read "A Matrix Christmas coming soon." The image presented Neo, played by Keanu Reeves, in a Christmas hat. The Matrix was released in 1999, while The Matrix Reloaded and The Matrix Revolutions were released both in 2003. It wouldn't be until 2021 that the next dystopia film in the Matrix franchise would be released. The Matrix Resurrections was released on December 22nd of 2021 in the United States. Tom Hanks endorses the US. In The Simpsons movie 2007, actor Tom Hanks made a cameo appearance during a commercial scene that The Simpsons were watching. During the commercial, a father took his 2 children to see the Grand Canyon, but his daughter was unimpressed by the landmark and requested for there to be a new Grand Canyon. Next, Hanks enters the scene stating that the US government lost its credibility, so it's borrowing some of mine. In 2022, 1 year after President Joe Biden's presidency, Hanks appeared in the commercial stating the Americans' determination as they endured economic hardships caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. The video focused on America's theme of rebuilding its economy and highlighting the successes of Biden's administration so far. Ukraine crisis. The episode The Simpsons Tied, Season 9, Episode 19, premiered in 1998. In the episode, a representative of each country met at the United Nations meet and were discussing each of the countries' plans. The representative from Russia claimed that they wanted the rest of the countries to assume that the Soviet Union was in the past. Following that were scenes of the Soviet Union flag hung, as well as soldiers lining up. This tragic prediction is believed to be the latest that came true in 2022. Russia had seized control of Crimea in 2014. In February 2022, Russia invaded Ukraine and attacked Ukrainian citizens with airstrikes. The Simpsons showrunner mentioned that this prediction doesn't compare to some of the show's trivial predictions, but rather from the ongoing tensions evident throughout history. The Simpsons predict the Super Bowl 3 times. The Super Bowl is the cornerstone of Simpsons predictions, and one of the first times people started noticing that they were getting stuff right. The football-centric episode Lisa the Greek aired back in 1992, only days before a Super Bowl, and correctly predicted that the Washington Redskins would win. Pretty cool, but that could just be a fluke though, right? Well, they did it again the following year, redubbing the episode for fun and correctly predicting that the Dallas Cowboys is victors. Well, luck can strike twice, but that's not all. They were believed to have done it yet again, redubbing once more to predict the San Francisco 49ers winning the Super Bowl. Donut-shaped universe. Homer and donuts are a match made in heaven, the premise of this joke being that his brain revolves around nothing else, even when pondering the universe. However, little did the writers know that when they had him speaking to Stephen Hawking about a donut-shaped universe, that this would become a genuine theory. The three torus model is a thing and has only recently come to light. Either way, Homer called it. In short, it suggests that the universe is shaped like a three-dimensional ring and that while not fully finite or infinite, you could never be able to reach its edge. Instead, you would simply loop back on yourself as if you were circumnavigating the globe. Ted Cruz is going on holiday during a crisis. In one particular Simpsons episode, Mayor Quimby flies off to the Bahamas while the town of Springfield is hit with a pandemic, a sequence of events that bears a striking resemblance to when a much less respected Ted Cruz went on holiday to Cancun while his state of Texas was in the midst of coronavirus, as well as a lack of electricity, heat and water. The censorship of Michelangelo's David. An episode from 1990 titled Itchy and Scratchy and Marge showed Springfieldians protesting against Michelangelo's statue of David being exhibited in the local museum, calling the artwork obscene for its nudity. The satire of censorship came true in July of 2016 when Russian campaigners voted on whether to clothe a copy of the Renaissance statue that had been set up in central St. Petersburg. Letter from the Beatles. In 1991, an episode of The Simpsons saw the Beatles' Ringo Starr diligently answering fan mail that had been written decades ago. In September 2013, two Beatles fans from Essex received a reply from Paul McCartney to a letter and recording they sent to the band 50 years ago. The recording was sent to a London theatre the band was due to play at, but was found years later in a car boot sale by a historian. In 2013, the BBC's The One Show reunited the pair with their letter, plus a reply from McCartney. The sideburns of MLB great Don Mattingly. In the 1992 episode Homer and the Bat, Mr. Burns recruits Major League Baseball players for a softball team, including the then New York Yankees first baseman Don Mattingly. Mr. Burns ends up benching Mattingly for not following the policy he has for the length of the player's sideburns. This actually happened to the Yankee captain in real life. In 1991, as I understand it, Yankees owner George Steinbrenner fined him $250 and Mattingly was benched for not adhering to the boss's rule of hair length. When the episode aired a year later, everyone thought The Simpsons was spoofing the event, but it turned out that Mattingly had recorded his lines for the episode a month before his standoff with Steinbrenner. Siegfried and Roy tiger attack. Now this is one of the most famous of the predictions. The Simpsons parodied entertainers Siegfried and Roy in a 1993 episode called Springfield, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love, Legalized Gambling. During the episode, the magicians are viciously mauled by a trained white tiger while performing in a casino. In 2003, Roy Horn of Siegfried and Roy was attacked during a live performance by Montecore, one of their white tigers. Roy lived, but sustained severe injuries in the attack. Horse meat scandal. In 1994, lunch lady Doris used assorted horse parts to make lunch for students at Springfield Elementary. 9 years later, the Food Safety Authority of Ireland found horse DNA in 1/3 of beef burger samples from supermarkets and ready meals, and pig in 85% of them. The invention of the shard. The Lisa's wedding episode from 1995 came with a lot of unexpected predictions. During Lisa's trip to London, we see a skyscraper behind Tower Bridge that looks eerily similar to the shard, and it's even in the right location. Construction of the building started in 2009, some 14 years later. Robotic librarians. In Lisa's wedding, again, we discover that librarians have been replaced with robots in the Simpsons universe. More than 20 years later, robotics students from University of Aberystwyth built a prototype from a walking library robot, while scientists in Singapore have been testing their own robot librarians. The invention of the tobacco plant. In 1999, Homer uses nuclear energy to create a hybrid of tomato and tobacco plants, the Tomaco. This inspired US Simpsons fan Bob Bohr to create his own plant. In 2003, Bohr grafted together a tobacco root and a tomato stem to make Tomaco. Writers for The Simpsons were so impressed that they invited Bohr and his family to their offices and ate the Tomaco fruit themselves. And the final prediction we have is pot legal in Canada. In the 2005 episode titled Midnight RX, Ned travels to Canada with Homer, Grandpa Simpson and Apu and discovers that pot is legal in the country. In 2018, Canada legalized recreational use of marijuana. The question still remains, are these just weird predictions that just so happen to come true? Or just weird coincidences? With that, this case remains open, but with many unanswered questions that still remain unanswered. Please rate the show and let me know what you guys think about this and the many other cases I've covered. You can follow me on all major social media platforms, YouTube, BitChute, Dailymotion. I'm also on Twitter and Instagram. Links are all down below in the description. If you have a case you'd like me to have a look at or cover, don't hesitate to send me a message. I'm your host, and this has been the Unanswered Questions Podcast. Until next time. Next on Unanswered Question. The Moorgate tube crash occurred on the 28th of February 1975 at 8:46 a.m. on the London Underground's Northern City line. 43 people died and 74 were injured after a train failed to stop at the line's southern terminus, Moorgate Station, and crashed into its end wall.